Good evening, TheoTrade. This is Corey Rosenblum, and you're watching the Theo Nightly video for the 30th of August here in 2022. We continue, or at least the market continues, riding the reward pathway to the downside. It took a while to get here, and we had the risk quotient, or the risk play. The risk was to the upside, and the reward was to the downside. That's playing out. And it's similar to the videos and the trades and the conversation that we had from March into April, where the market similarly, we'll take you back to that, had a bear market rally that went a little bit higher than expected, but then turned down to make new lows. So that's the reference point with which I'm using for trades and sector discussion and anything else within the market itself. But starting here with the S&P 500, we did see the market go, again, we talked about the Gandalf level, which is you shall not pass the 4,300, which was the underside of the 200-day moving average. Now back in April, it did pass, but it did not pass over the high of about 4,600 in the SPX. Now we're trading down. So again, just to be clear, this is the reward. What does reward mean? There's more downside potential than the risk, and the risk was to the upside. So again, that frames out your trades. That frames out, if we talk about the SPX, that will frame out the broader sectors, which would include financials, technology, XLK, discretionary, XLY, industrials, and then materials, looking at the sector spiders right here. And in the middle is energy, and our three defensive sectors are staples, P, utilities, or utilities, U, and V is healthcare. So just looking at the sectors, that's what we'll talk about in tonight's video as we get ready to turn the corner into September. But first, let's talk about right here where we're looking and what is on the calendar. So we'll have, at least on Wednesday session, and then we'll have, we're getting ready for the jobs report, Thursday session. Thursday session is the Purchasing Managers Index right there on Thursday. PMI, manufacturing, factory orders, but we are going to be most concerned and excited and ready to trade or hedge or position. Not so much with anything seen here, but the unemployment situation. That's the monthly jobs report, or the non-farm payrolls. And looking at it quickly, this will be our guiding point. And this is the information. Last month we had 528,000. That was a double. That actually exceeded expectations to the upside. Well, expectations going into Friday is about adding just about 300,000 jobs, with the unemployment rate staying unchanged at 3.5%. And we can look at individual payrolls, individual hours worked, work week, etc. But that's to talk about on Thursday, Wednesday, and before Friday. Before we get there, we are going to be pushing into the end of August into September. So similar from the end of March in the beginning of April, and the market turned, reversed, we are turning the corner from August into September. The same is taking place on the Nasdaq. Here is the NQ, the futures contract. If you trade the ETF, that is just shy or coming down from the 333 per share level. Currently trades $30 lower into 300. That will be a very key point to watch going forward. And I think it's similar to what we saw again from April or March into April and a little bit forward into April with the market up. And why do we call this reward to the downside? Reward to the downside means how much higher can the market go without a pullback? But that's what the risk is. The market can go higher, but the odds will favor and do favor a pullback or a retracement or a move lower. So in other words, markets don't go straight up. They don't go straight down. We like to call it they wiggle and they squiggle. Wiggle and squiggle just means they move in intraday or short-term swing up, swing down, and etc. All the lines off the chart now. So that's what it refers to, is when the market is up this high or has rallied off the low, how much higher can it go? And it is what gets us into bearish, defensive, or hedged positions. And though it went a little bit higher than expected, this is true in the Qs and the other ETFs, it did turn and trend lower, and that joins the bigger trend, which is to the downside. The same is true in the Dow mini futures and in the small cap index, the Russell. In terms of the performance, the S&P on a volatile session, again, the week has been volatile, but the volatile session has taken us down 1% and almost 1.1%. But the Russell's down 1.5%. The Dow is down only 1%. But outside of that, we had a reversal and a trend to the downside in crude oil. That's what's helped the energy sector, XLE, be the weakest sector in today's session. So energy stocks, ExxonMobil coming down from 100, ConocoPhillips and Chevron Texaco. These are daily chart trends that are a little stronger, but they are getting a sell side because they are tied closely to the performance of crude oil. While we are at it and talking about commodities, commodities had a slide to the downside today, including gold. Gold was off about 1% in today's session, but it does trend down. Similar logic, if we could say that, to the equity market or the stock market, which had a series of lower lows, lower highs. And again, this is the risk, which is how much higher can this market go before turning, and the reward back to the downside. That would also be true in silver, SI for the futures contract, or if you wish to look at trade the ETF, that is SLV, and on gold you would trade GLD, and these targets are being achieved to the downside. Speaking of downside, we have the bond market, TLT, all these ETF symbols, but they are tradable and positionable, options, spreads, or just shares. But TLT is pushing down to these lows and continuing its downtrend. And that is once again similar to the S&P, although it had a stronger rally off of its June and July reversal point. That being said, I was curious, and I like to scan, so I'll show the scan of stocks making new 52-week highs. There are none. But stocks making new 52-week lows, let's actually detach that so we can look at it. And the way you would do this is on your Thinkorswim platform, go into load scan query, go down to, it will be actually public. Public will be the new yearly lows or the highs if you wish to see the stocks that are making highs. And I will scan within the S&P 500. So which stocks led the market to the downside today? Verizon, Comcast, Intel, Triple M, and I do sort Newmont Mining, Newmont and Walgreens, the Nasdaq Corporation, Garmin, and others. I do sort these lists in the videos and in swing trades and swing performance by market cap. So these are the stocks making new lows. There were 21 of them in the S&P 500, but I'm most interested in the leaders of market cap. So why I like to show this list is because these are the weak stocks getting weaker. And my thought process is if something is weak and making new lows, it has better odds to continue making new price lows, setting up bear positions, bear put spreads, or otherwise, whatever position that makes you most comfortable as a trader with your experience level, account size, or risk tolerance to be short or bearish in these names. Comcast being one, Intel being another, Triple M, a market that has just made new lows, Fortinet, and we'll look at Newmont, which is down at the lows as well, and Garmin, just to name a few. But the logic is, for trade setups and trade practices, if something is weak and downtrending, it does tend to get weaker. So that means we would try as best we can with positions to lean on the short side after pullbacks or retracements. Best examples being Comcast. We'll also look at Charter, which is in a similar position, and these other stocks as well. So there is the market update. There is where we are as we end or push toward the end of August 2022, with the market sneaking a little bit higher to the upside, just as it did at the end of March, but ultimately reversing and giving profits to the patient and protected put plays or defensive hedges, taking a little bit of heat, but coming out as the market travels currently the reward pathway to the downside. As always, be careful and safe. This is Corey Rosenblum with tonight's Theo video update for August 30th, 2022.